Now, physical configuration of the room is key. I always do my JAD sessions the same way, and I recommend that you do also. Number one, moderator front and center. To my left, I like to have the scribes over there. Now, while I'm moderator, I also like to have my own whiteboard over here where I may maintain a parking lot of ideas. But as the moderator, I need to be there to make sure that things are moving smoothly, to make sure the conflicts are being resolved, to make sure that we're moving in a constructive direction, and to make sure that I'm bringing in the right resources at the right time. That's what the moderator facilitator is supposed to be doing, not spending all my time writing. Okay. Third, the most important piece is where the business stakeholders and the technology stakeholders are going to sit. Now, I never like to have more than 3 to 5 groups. It can turn into a faction situation where you have 8 people versus 2 people, and you can lose control of a room very easily. And physically, you're supposed to. I always want a U-shaped table that opens out toward me, so that all of the participants can see each other. They can interact with each other, and they can interact with me. I can all interact with all of them. The worst design is if you have a lecture type format where you have seating, and everybody's talking to the back of everyone's head. A couple more items. The technology staff should always be at the back of the room. These are the experts in the company's, what the company's technology resources are. Or programmers or guys who can coach on the technical aspects of what's going on. Now, sometimes those guys may be actually at the horseshoe table because they are considered stakeholders as developers. And then the last group would be any observers that we have. Now, that could be corporate counsel, that could be upper management, that could be other consultants, that could be whoever needs to be, and they would also be in the back corner of the room, again, facing the back of people's heads. The observers don't talk very much. When they do, the group can go see them, or I can invite them up to the front of the room. Same with the technology people. But the goal of having them in that physical position is that they have to be invited up to participate, and they're not real heavy players in they're not the main players on the field. So that basically gives you the physical configuration. And it's key not to deviate from that design. One of the strengths of JAD is how the physical thing is laid out and where people sit and who is invited and how many of each get invited. Those are the things that have made JAD so successful over the years. Don't mess with the formula. Let's speak for a moment about the planning for a JAD session. A JAD session requires the time of maybe 12, 15 people out of the corporation. That is a tremendous allocation of time, and you really need to make sure that you're getting a bang for your buck. Remember that at the end of a JAD session, you are expected to have documented a formal document that comes out of it that represents an agreement between the groups, and where it forms the formal roadmap. Getting that consensus in a relatively short period of time is a difficult thing to do and requires a lot of organization. Many JAD sessions, many JAD projects schedule 3 to 6 months to arrive at the final project, at the final product. These are not quick. They can be quick. It depends on how complex the problem is, how many groups you have to merge, how many different ideas there are out there. It depends on a lot of things. But in any case, in order to ensure that you get that you have productive sessions, it is absolutely key to do your homework. What I will typically do, long before I ever get everybody together in a session, is to sit down with people and on a one-on-one interview, and listen to their perception of the issues, and just begin to catalog what the things that are going to be discussed at the JAD session might be, with the objective of compiling a list of controversies, a list of areas where people may or may not agree, and to begin to put a framework on the whole thing so that when we get into it, we're not hitting it cold. What I will typically do is hold maybe 10 or 20 individual interviews with various stakeholders, document their wants, their fears, their apprehensions, and what they'd like to see come out of the JAD session. Then I'll document that up somewhat formally and then forward that to them and say, is this what you said, and would you like to modify this at all before I distribute this? And I will do that for everybody, and I will gradually work up a fairly substantial document that, in my mind, may document many of the issues that should come up and should be resolved at the JAD session. Everybody is then given a copy of that possibly a week before the session so that they have the opportunity to absorb the information, to gather any relative artifacts that might be useful at the JAD session, to make phone calls, to verify things, to do whatever they need to do so that when they get to the JAD session, they can make a meaningful contribution. A JAD session is clearly not something that people are supposed to hit cold. They're supposed to hit it well briefed, ready for the controversies. They're supposed to hit it ready to respond, both pro and con to things. Now, there are invariably things that come out of the JAD session that weren't expected. That's fine. Those are not, I mean, you can only do your best, and a JAD session is meant to elicit those kinds of requirements you hadn't seen, those kind of conflicts, those kind of interactions that weren't available, and those kinds of things that only come out when you look at how maybe 3, 4, 5 different organs of the company are interacting together. That's when you find the problem. That's great, no problem. But it's so important to move things along. It's so important in moving things along that you do your homework ahead of time, get everybody briefed, and have everybody ready for the meeting. That's my job, is to make sure that everybody is as well briefed as possible so we can move through the process quickly. Well, that wraps up my initial thoughts on JAD sessions. I will be writing some additional papers on JAD sessions that give much more detailed explanations of the various roles and what each of the various contributors is supposed to do. If each person in the room understands their role and understands what they're supposed to be contributing and what they're not supposed to be contributing, they do a pretty good job of it. Once they understand what they're supposed to be on top of. Well, I hope that helped a little bit. If I can be of any assistance, my website, davidsyme.com, has contact information for me, and I'm glad I got an opportunity to give you my thoughts on JAD sessions. Thank you.